locked in.
Look at what we have here, folks.
To the only show that matters.
The cream of the crop.
Duke Loves Rasslin.
And there is no one that does it better than
your host.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
The Duke.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
What does everybody want? Head.
All right. Listen, you don't need to scream this early in the show. Here.
Come on, man. That's Al Snow, brother.
Listen, I know it's a bad Al Snow because I got the real Al Snow right here.
This is former WWE Superstar Al Snow, and I have created the wrestling brand, collar and elbow brand. It's wrestling apparel made by a wrestler for the wrestling fan in all of us. The love, the passion you have for wrestling is in this apparel. collarandelbowbrand.com. Buy it today, and also round up your purchase and help support the former wrestlers who made it possible for you to love wrestling today. Go to collarandelbowbrand.com and help support Cauliflower Alley Club and their charitable effort.
That, my friend, is Al Snow. And that's how you do a promo, by the way.
Well, speaking of Al Snow, you know he's going to be joining us later in the show
that's right.
today.
He's coming on the show today.
How cool is that?
And based on that promo, I think we're in for a good time.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he's going to be impressed with my impersonation.
I'm impressed that you were able to get such a high-caliber person on this show.
I'm the Duke. What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, I think people would have figured your jig is up by now. They would just be calling me directly.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I thought that's what it would be.
Well, listen, I got more tricks up my sleeve than you realize, pal. Anyways, welcome back to Duke Loves Rasslin. I am the Duke. And yes, I do enjoy doing pro wrestler impersonations. I'm going to keep on doing them no matter what my illustrious co-host, the Boston bad boy, I am Mike Pelosi, says.
Well, you know, I'm going to say something that's actually interesting and pertinent. So last week, or actually this past week, I had the pleasure to sit in on an interview done by a friend of the show, Chuck Nowlin from WZLX.
The legendary DJ there,
yep.
Chuck Nowlin.
And so Chuck did an interview with the legendary George Thorogood.
Oh, boy.
Bad to the Bone.
Bad to the Bone.
You know, he's the Delaware rocker or whatever his moniker is. And he was telling a story about playing out and all these great stories about the blues guys he worked with. And he was talking about because his early career, he started here in Boston, in the Cambridge area, when he was just breaking into the business. And he went to the Boston Garden. He was talking about how the Boston Garden is such a legendary venue. So take a listen to this.
I went to the Boston Gardens 3 times. There's nothing like it. No matter what event you go to the Boston Gardens. The Boston Gardens itself is an event. Am I wrong?
Absolutely.
It's an institution.
Yeah.
Here's what I got to see there. I saw Rod Stewart perform there. Worldwide Wrestling Federation.
Off the turnbuckle.
Jesse the Body Ventura.
Yes.
Saw him fight there.
Yeah.
And I saw the ultimate, the Boston Celtics playing the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a basketball guy. I never experienced anything like it in my life. They had this guy on the Detroit Pistons.
Bill Lambier.
You know him.
Oh, yeah.
I don't
Legendary.
know the man's name. This guy should have been in Worldwide Wrestling.
Wow.
So there's a couple of things there. One, you're always talking about you never know who's a wrestling fan.
That's right.
I mean, people of all walks of life and of all age groups. So George Thorogood, Mr. Bad to the Bone.
A blues rock legend.
And of course he's a wrestling fan. Of course he is. He's bad to the bone.
Yeah.
And I got to say thanks to Chuck for sending us that clip. Chuck Nowlin, afternoons 2 to 7 on WZLX in Boston. You can listen online and check out that whole interview with George Thorogood, which is great, at WZLX.com. So there's a shout out. But also, that reminded me that we've got some basketball-related guests coming up.
You know, Peter Vesey, who's a friend of the show, and he's been on before, the Hall of Fame journalist.
The only man who hates wrestling more than I do.
Yeah, please. You know, he's going to be on the show next week, folks, so we'll have to ask him if he thinks Bill Lambier would have made a great pro wrestler.
Yeah, that'll be good.
I'm
sure he'll enjoy that question.
Yeah, that's cool.
He loves taking your crazy wrestling questions.
I know. Well, what did he say to me before? He's happy to get me off his bandwagon.
That's... Oh yeah. So, well, you know, we laugh about that, but it's funny. This week in sports, there's been some serious some news coming out.
Yes, there sure has been.
And I'm not a huge sports fan, but I thought this was interesting, especially where it talks about injuries, and which relates to wrestling.
Absolutely,
because
100%.
A lot of these guys suffer similar injuries.
100%. In fact, there was a new study that came out in the medical journal JAMA, JAMA. And they found that traumatic brain disorder, CTE, they found it in 99% of brains that were studied.
Unbelievable.
All right, so they tested 111 brains.
Okay.
And the majority of them, and these were deceased.
Well, you can't even
NFL
say
players.
majority.
I know, yeah.
So
Majority.
You're saying, so out of 101,
111.
111.
Yep. One.
So 110
Yep.
had this
CTE.
CTE, which is, I believe, I'm no doctor, I just play it on TV, but the more concussions you get,
Yep.
as it's a cumulative injury.
Yes.
So basically, single concussions add up to a disease of the brain from repeated injury
Yes.
to the head.
Yes.
And so a lot of this stuff is happening where they're finding a lot of suicides in retired
NFL
football players.
yeah.
And also a lot of strange behavior, a lot of aggressive behavior. There are folks committing crimes. There's all kinds of crazy
Domestic
stuff.
violence, the whole nine yards.
Crazy,
Yeah.
crazy
Yeah.
stuff going
Yeah.
on. And
Well, it got me to thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, there are other sports like soccer, boxing, mixed martial arts, and even pro wrestling.
absolutely.
These are sports where people are consistently getting concussions.
Well, you know what? It's interesting because they're going to have to do some sort of comparative study, I would think. And I think pro wrestling is the way to go. Even El Presidente of the Texas Wrestling Entertainment,
Yeah,
Mr. Rudy Gonzalez,
yeah.
he brought it up. He was talking about it on Facebook.
Yep.
And, just imagine what the results would be if they were able to study the brains of wrestlers going back to the WWE and all, F and all that.
Well, here's where it gets scary. The majority of pro wrestlers, at least the males, and we talked about this before, they have a background in playing football.
Right.
High school, college,
Even
and some in the
pros,
pros.
right,
You know what I mean? So you're talking about not only did you get all these concussions while you played football, but then you had a wrestling career. Let's say you had a 20-year wrestling career after your football career. You know what I mean?
Well, but
So
right. Well, but even make it much simpler than that. A guy like Daniel Bryan, not necessarily not a pro sports person,
not at all.
Still a very young person.
Yep.
Has too much cumulative injury to
WWE
continue.
won't sanction him. Yeah.
I mean, what does that say? So, and here's the thing: they won't sanction him now. 25 years ago, he's sanctioned. They all were. How many of these guys worked with debilitating injuries while they were on medications and whatever else that were hugely dangerous and huge liabilities?
Yeah, and the medicine and the science just wasn't there.
No, it
We
wasn't
didn't
there.
know back then.
But
what we
here's
know
the thing. Now that we know what happens, if I had kids, I would not let them participate in football.
That's a strong statement.
Because I'm just not that interested in football.
Oh,
and
geez, this guy.
and two, I just think the purpose of football is contact. It's that kind of literally head first contact. If you're not the quarterback, you're taking some head first contact a lot of the time, and even the quarterback is. We know Tom Brady has concussions, and his wife blew the whistle on.
Well, when you say head first contact, let's put that in perspective. It's not because the way that the sport is set up now, you can't spear anymore with your head.
No,
So
but you
they've
are
adjusted.
talking.
Well, hear me out. But your head gets slammed against the ground when you get tackled.
Yeah, but if you're going into a guy with your shoulder,
Sure.
your head, those helmets, they're clicking and clacking.
Well,
you're
that's
literally
a whiplash
You're
effect.
looking down and you're going head first.
The way that you tackle now, you don't lead with your head. So you're avoiding that. But the tackle
I think
itself,
that-
when
or
you
that
fall
may be-
down,
yeah.
that's where
that may be
you're still getting a lot of
and
that.
again, I think that may be what
impact.
they're trying to do. I still think in practice, it's still a majority head first.
Well,
sport.
yeah, that's a different ball game right there.
And you know what? Hockey, I guess you could say there's fights, but that's also talk about a whiplash effect. If you're,
when you hit the
checking
ice,
somebody,
you hit the ice.
hit the ice, or you're
hit the
hitting
boards,
somebody, hitting the
Sure,
boards.
Sure. Mixed martial arts, I mean, you're trying to knock somebody out. Boxing, you're trying to knock somebody
That's
out.
right. You're literally hitting them directly in the head.
You're trying to cause a concussion on purpose.
I just think that the NFL is such a business that they can't let this can't go on very long. In other words, they can't continue on the arc that they're on by sort of hands off.
There's no
on it.
hands off on this one.
I mean, in order for them to
real.
exist, they're going to have to change something. I don't know what it is because inherently the sport is contact.
Maybe there's a way that you can revolutionize the helmet and the pads to protect the head better.
Potentially.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
you can make anything. If
Right.
you
Well, I heard one theory, which was they were thinking about one way to avoid people going head first or really protecting their head more while they're playing, remove the face mask from a helmet.
no.
Because you're less likely to just dive when you're not in a full cage.
No, people were still getting concussions when they didn't. Face masks didn't always exist.
No, I know that.
So that there's no.
But I think this was actually someone did the research at this.
Yeah.
And said that the style of sort of full-blown head-to-head combat developed because the face mask cage
I don't believe it.
protected the actual face.
I think that's complete baloney.
But it was something they were actually considering. The NFL was considering that amongst other
and what
things.
happened? And what happened?
Well, what happened was they don't want to spend the money. They don't care
No,
about these guys.
that's not what happened.
They don't care about these guys.
That's
They're
not what happened.
gladiators to
Give me a
them.
break.
If somebody died on the field, the ratings would be through the roof.
People have died.
That's right.
What are you talking about? The
So-
ratings weren't through the roof after that.
Are you kidding me?
Not because of that.
We're talking about a corporation, the NFL,
They
that
don't
gets
want their
money from the
players to
United
die.
States. That gets money from the United
All
States
right.
government to promote patriotism.
Folks, this is what
if
happens
that's not
when
a
you,
sham company,
no,
wait.
This
if
is what
that's not a
happens
sham,
when you have a
they
guy
don't
who doesn't
care,
know anything about sports
they're one
and he
step-
starts running his mouth.
They're one step below. They're one step above Vince McMahon and company.
You're not gonna disrespect the great sport of professional
great
football.
sport. Get out of
okay?
here.
Yes, they need to watch out with the concussions.
the great sport of wife beaters and dog
Stop it
and
right now.
dog fighters
And every other
and everything else. And when the one guy wants to stand up
Give me a
and protest peacefully, he gets his ass handed to him
All
by
right,
everybody.
now you're gonna go there. Now you're gonna go
No,
there.
because that's where it is. Tell me
Okay.
where the priorities for a company like that is.
Listen, they're trying to figure out this concussion thing.
Oh, they knew
okay?
about it all along. They don't need to
Well,
figure anything out. They're full of it,
listen.
just like your boy Vince.
All right, you know what? Listen, don't cut me off when I'm trying to make my
Listen,
point,
I thought this was the
okay?
time we run the ropes.
No. Here we have a situation where you got a guy who doesn't know anything about sports, never played football in his life. I played football, pal. I'll tell you what's
I
really
think you
going
might have
down.
taken a few hits to the
Well,
head.
yeah,
is what
I'll
happened.
tell you
this
what's really going
ridiculous
down.
conversation you're having.
You can revolutionize the pads and the helmets to protect the head.
That costs money. They
Okay?
don't care.
It will
Because
it will
if they
happen.
because
It will happen.
if they can do it, which they probably could already have done it,
Yeah.
they would have spent the money and done it. They don't care.
You were
Who has
so
more
wrong.
money than them?
You were so wrong. You just don't know what you're talking.
You know
about.
what? We should
You
run
know?
the ropes.
Yeah, go sail a boat or something there, Captain. Please. Great Khali returns. That's right, folks, as covered on the Duke Loves Rasslin Facebook page and as seen at the WWE pay-per-view this past Sunday. Great Khali came back. And he came out during the Punjabi prison match, one of the most exciting matches in the history of pro wrestling, by the way. Okay?
I think you're out of your mind.
Stay out of this, Boston Bad Boy. He attacked Randy Orton, which allowed Jinder Mahal to retain the WWE Championship. Now, look, I know a lot of people roll their eyes at the notion of Great Khali, but remember, he's a legend in India, okay? And such an imposing figure that when you look at him, you have to pay attention to him. If he's going to play the bodyguard / enforcer for Jinder, that would be fantastic. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Will this be a one-off, or is Khali going to continue to show up and have Jinder's back?
I just watched Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And the Kalima, Kali, and they pull the guys beating. If they could figure out how to do that gimmick and pull the beating heart out of their enemies, then we'd have a real dangerous, scary guy. If he could somehow pull the heart out of and they hold it there and then it catches fire.
What the hell's going on?
How cool would that be for a wrestling
Oh,
gimmick?
my God.
I'm telling you, that's the way to go with this.
I don't know what's in this guy's coconut water this week, folks, but he is all over the place. Global Force Wrestling signs new stars. Yep, you got that right. According to GFW's Twitter account, they signed former Lucha Underground stars Drago, Taya Valkyrie, and the man formerly known as Johnny Mundo, Mr. John Hennigan. Now, hopefully these three stars give GFW a shot in the arm because they certainly need it right now, folks. I mean, the only thing that really gets me excited about them is Sienna, who is just fantastic. She is the Global Force Wrestling Women's Champion. But outside of that, I just don't know what's going on with that promotion right now. So stay tuned. We'll see if these three can move the needle because, WWE needs some competition.
I think we need to briefly touch on the elephant in the room here. You mentioned Global Force Wrestling.
Sure.
What's the status of Alberto Del Rio?
Still
Patron,
waiting on
El Patron.
Still waiting on according to Global Force Wrestling, they're still investigating.
They are.
Personally, they're investigating, even though the Orlando PD has stated that they're not investigating Alberto
What else
anymore.
did the Orlando PD state, by the way?
Well, they recommended that charges be brought against Page. Now, there's been some conflicting reports out there. Okay, there was a report that came out that said that there is a warrant for Page's arrest that has been granted by the district attorney's office, but I checked it out.
Yeah.
I went to, I went through my sources there.
Sure.
And currently there's no arrest warrant listed officially.
For her name. Because that's public document.
That would be a public
That's right.
document under most circumstances. There is a slight possibility that they have sealed it. I doubt it. I think they would make that public because, there's so many people who want to know about it because it's topical.
Well,
It's
that's what
news.
I'm saying. I think we got
But-
trying to find out the real story here. Because if that's the case, this has gotten very serious.
This is getting strange here. I will say this though. I just have a hunch. I got a feeling that they will put out an arrest warrant and it'll get thrown out. She'll agree to take some classes or something like that and they'll work with her. But I think they are going to end up calling for her
What will
arrest.
the WWE do? Will it take for her to be actually put in cuffs before they do something?
If you are arrested, they have to suspend you.
Okay.
They suspend you indefinitely, basically.
Till whatever sorted out.
If you're officially charged, then that's a
That's
different
it.
ballgame.
Well, I guess we're going to wait and see on that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they're going to do anything.
This guy has no faith in anything. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Listen, I'm sitting here with you. What do you think?
Yeah, give me a break. Roman Reigns and John Cena trade insults. Ugh. Talk about two guys who I can't stand, okay?
Please.
That punk Roman
Why
Reigns.
don't you keep your opinions to yourself? You
Oh.
just told me to do the same thing. Why don't you just read the news
Give me
and
a
get
break.
on with it?
Give me a break. That punk Roman Reigns and that other punk John Cena. Yep. You saw it on the Duke Loves Rasslin Facebook page and Twitter page. Reigns sent Cena a ridiculous message. Okay? This is what he had to say. Told y'all I'm the big fight. Heard Philly was a little quiet tonight. Better bring their best when we return. Well, of course, John Cena wasn't going to take that laying down there, and he responded, pride always comes before the fall. Don't get ahead of yourself, young man. But if you want to fight, careful what you wish for. Ooh. Well, Reigns responded to that. And let me tell you something. This jerk, real tough guy on Twitter. If you want it, you know where my yard is. Okay, look, I don't give a damn what happens with these two. I do want to see them fight, but I hope they destroy each other. That's all I have to say about that.
I think it's hysterical that when you read the quote from Roman Reigns, you did it in character, and when you did John Cena, you didn't. You gave Roman Reigns a big dumb voice.
Because I dislike Roman slightly more than I dislike Cena.
The fact that you put that much effort into it shows the depths of your insane infatuation with him.
ESPN 30 for 30 documentary on Ric Flair. Woo! That's right, folks. It's been made official. ESPN 30 for 30 are going to do a special on the greatest of all time, the Nature Boy Ric Flair. That's going to debut November 7th at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. This is 2 years in the making. They're going to cover his whole career and what he's been up to lately. Can you imagine the ratings for that thing?
Boy, I know just from you, how many TVs in your house are going to be set on it?
Every one of them. Every one of them. You kidding me? And Ric Flair is a household name all over the world, man. Everyone's going to be watching this.
No, I think it's, and they usually do a good job with these things.
Awesome job. Awesome job.
He's just going to come off as even crazier than we think he is.
Yeah, this is going to be something that's really going to shock people because it's like, yeah, Ric Flair is all of that. Yes.
And still is.
Still is.
And always will be.
That's right. And the number one story in the world of professional wrestling is... Fatal 4-Way match will be the main event for SummerSlam. That's right, as reported on WWE Raw. Brock Lesnar will stay out of this. Brock Lesnar will defend his title against Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns, and Samoa Joe. It's going to be a Fatal 4-Way match. The first person to make any of the others either submit or score a pinfall on them will be the new Universal Champion.
You know, they should get a belt if the first person to make someone interested in this match I think that would be if they could just get whoever can get some reaction out of the crowd. I think they should get a belt automatically.
This is literally the most anticipated match of the year.
It's
right
just
now.
it's like I see dud. I don't know.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, you're going to defend Roman Reigns? That he's
going to lose.
Oh, okay.
Samoa Joe's going to win this match.
Okay.
I already know Samoa Joe's going to win this match. And shout out to Looney Lane.
Brock Lesnar.
She taught Samoa Joe everything he knows.
Let it go, Brock Lesnar. Let it go.
Lesnar will lose the title. It's okay.
But then he's just going to hang around. He's just going to hang around and just be a dud.
I want you to tell Brock Lesnar that to his face. I would love to see that.
You know what? I'll do that right after you tell Roman Reigns what you think of him to his face.
Roman Reigns knows not to mess with me. I got Al Snow in my corner.
Oh, please.
You've heard what I think. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm a jerk? Maybe something in between. Stay out of this. Head over to Facebook. Head over to Twitter. Let me know. Up next, we have the wrestling superstar, Al Snow.
This is Rudy Boy Gonzalez of the Texas Wrestling Academy, and you're listening to Duke Loves Rasslin.
A few months ago, a listener sent me a photo of Al Snow in the gym flexing, and I'm sitting here like, wow, this dude is jacked. So what the heck have you been doing with yourself to get in the kind of shape that you're in? Because seriously, Al, you look better today than you did 25 years ago.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. What I did was I changed how I eat, and the big thing is that I changed how I train. I started training more functionally, and started training for what I actually do, which is be a wrestler, and I tell people all the time, work your legs. If you want to lose weight, you want to lean out, you want to trim down, you want to build muscle, work your legs. Work them as much as you possibly can.
That reminds me of Ric Flair. You would cut promos making fun of certain people, and you'd always talk about those skinny little legs. He'd always say that.
Yeah, horse race legs. Yeah, thoroughbred legs.
That's right. Now, I didn't know if maybe the reason why you've gotten yourself into such great shape is because you got a match coming up against that no-good Mick Foley, the former Raw general manager. What's his problem with you, by the way? Because, for like the past 2 decades, this guy has gone out of his way to make a lot of disparaging remarks about you. And I'm quite frankly, I'm sick of it. What's Mick Foley's deal with you? Is he jealous?
He's so obsessed, you got to wonder if he's got like a sexual crush on me or something. You know what I mean? Only thing I can think of is that much like his life story, if he hadn't been mentioning me in it, his life story would be just like his penis, kind of short.
Oh, well, it's funny you mentioned the obsession because our very own Duke here has an obsession with a current WWE superstar by the name of Roman Reigns.
I'm not obsessed with him.
And it's also sad and somewhat fascinating, but mostly sad. And I know he's going to probably ask you about it, so I just wanted to get it out of the way right here, right now.
Well,
okay.
Let me explain something here, okay?
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
God, here we go.
Roman Reigns, he's my arch nemesis.
No such thing.
Okay? He's nothing but a pumped up, nothing happening, overstuffed punk from the gym. Okay? And now that I have a guy like Al Snow, the superstar who's done it all. I mean, you've even trained UFC Hall of Famer Dan Severn. You trained him on how to throw a decent punch, and look at him. He's in the Hall of Fame now. Al, I think maybe I need to link up with you, and you can teach me, all 5, 6 of me, on how I can go take on Roman Reigns. What do you say about that?
I say let's do it. I believe in a real kind of a David Goliath kind of thing. I'll help you climb that mountain.
See that? See that, Boston bad boy?
We can't waste Al's time because it's most recently, you've been working, because we need to get some real stuff, interesting stuff. You've been working as a manager and an agent for TNA, Impact, GFT, whatever they call them. Yeah, what are they calling themselves this week? Explain to people, because a lot of our listeners don't all know the lingo, and a lot of them get caught up in the soap opera. I want to talk about the interesting stuff, which is what is a backstage agent, and what are you supposed to do when you are one of those?
Well, what a backstage agent is like a segment producer, and for television.
Yeah.
you'll get a particular match or in-ring segment, and every match has to, what we call, conduct some kind of business, what we want the audience to think, feel, or believe when that segment's over. And think of it like wrestling. It's just a storytelling medium, and those segments on television are basic chapters in a story. So we need to make sure that in those segments, those certain stories are continuously told. Characters are continuously developed in the right way. Motivations and ideas are expressed, and everything moves that story forward to its culmination, to its end, and even the wrestling matches themselves. And so, as an agent or segment producer, you're there to kind of help the talent, direct them, and give them ideas and what's really needing to be accomplished in that time that they're out there on television.
Oh, that's great. I mean, and that's pretty cool, because we've talked to a couple of folks, a couple of legends, and they were talking about, I mean, we know that, in a wrestling match, there's a lot of ad-libbing that goes on. You have your arc, and again, you're working with the backstage crew to make sure it gets put out there the way it needs to be. And we were talking to Tommy
Wildfire Rich,
and
NWA legend,
and he was sort of lamenting the fact that it's almost too scripted, that the guys don't have enough room, or the men and women don't have enough room to improvise. What do you think? Do you think, as a producer, looking at it from that agent standpoint, is it better for them to be looser so that they can have something organic? You give them a coach, you coach them through what you want it to be, and then let them form it out in the ring?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And in fact, I tell all of the talent when I work with them that once they step in the ring, it's their responsibility. I'm going to give them an outline, a direction, and ideas, but really it's up to them. And I agree with Tommy that it can be too scripted. And the reason it can be too scripted is it doesn't allow for them to emotionally react to what happens, because they're so worried and concerned and preoccupied with what's going to happen next that they don't react naturally. They don't react believably. They don't react emotionally to what's occurring at that time.
Right.
It's a much faster pace, but they'd get so much more out of it if they were just to simply slow down and allow us to, one, see and appreciate what they just did, two, be able to react to what just happened, and three, watch their reaction and the impact of what occurred to them in the course of the story of the match. And it just happens at such a pace that we really can't get all of that in anymore.
Right. I mean, you need to be good. And Tommy said it was Shakespeare, and acting is mostly reacting, right? You got to pay attention and play off the other person, and have the skill and ability to do that.
Right. Wrestlers are not actors. They're very much similar, but wrestlers aren't actors. They're more, like you said, reactors, and the ability to react to what's happening and be in that moment, and not be thinking to the very next thing, but living in that moment and allowing the audience to live in that moment with you. And that requires you to not script so much out.
Right. So with all that, with your experience and working hands-on with wrestlers and having the experience as a trainer all these years, explain to me what it's like. I mean, how difficult is it to run a pro wrestling promotion nowadays? Because it's been 15, 16, 17 years since WCW's gone out of business, and no promotion seems to be able to get close to getting up to the top of, or getting one over on WWE.
Well, first off, I mean, WWE is an iconic brand, so you're trying to compete,
right?
On a level that you just can't compete. I mean, it's not going to be possible at first. The second problem is that people don't realize that as a professional wrestling company, it's a very heavy front-end loaded capital. I mean, you've got to put out a lot of money for a very long time until you establish and then market and get your talent, which are your actual product, you get your talent over to where they're capable of drawing you an income, motivated an audience to leave their house and drive to a building and pay to see your talent perform. And that doesn't happen overnight. That takes a lot of time.
And so
takes a lot of capital that you got to lay out for that to happen.
So it's not necessarily a comment on upcoming talent and indie talent that's out there. It's mainly a capital issue of getting the exposure going.
It's both. You need to, it's one, having the promotion that has the resources and the capital,
right,
and the savvy, because professional wrestling is a different business. It's a different animal. You need to understand that on the level that a lot of people, if they don't have that experience, don't. And it's having that unfortunately, and this isn't a knock. The talent these days come from a different era where the vast majority of them don't perform to make a living, meaning they don't pay the bill strictly based on what they get when they perform.
Right.
So it develops a different mindset of talent.
We're talking to pro wrestling superstar Al Snow here. Al, we got to ask a big question that I know it's on the listeners' minds. Everyone's been, when we announced that you'd be coming on the show, everyone wanted to know the answer to this question.
Sure.
What happened at TNA, Impact, Global Force Wrestling, whatever? Why are you no longer with them?
I'm no longer with them because of financial reasons. And the financial reasons are that, there are only so many spots for agents, and, new management came in, and with new management came in a new crew of people, which happens all the time, not just in wrestling, but in business in general. And, there are only so many spots, and somebody's got to go. So, it was myself and a couple of other guys, and I had a wonderful time there. I had a great run. Lasted a lot longer than I ever would have expected it, especially considering how many times that, the death bell had been rung for TNA, and it certainly could have came to an end a lot sooner. But I enjoyed the opportunity to be there, and I hope that TNA not only survives but continues to go on and thrive, and be a viable wrestling promotion, because the wrestling business and the wrestling fans and the wrestlers need as much alternatives and competition out there as possible.
I want to go back real quick just to something you were saying a minute ago, which was about the mindset of a lot of the newer generation people coming in, where they're not training, they're not performing with a desperation that is, this is my life on the road, I'm going to make it, like a lot of the old school guys did. Just, this is my profession, it's not my weekend gig, it's not my side gig, this is my profession, I'm going to eat based on the back of this, so I better train my ass off to make sure I can do this thing. That kind of mentality, that where it's like, well, this is sort of a secondary thing, priorities have shifted. Do you think that trickles upwards into these promotions that have been, a lot of these promotions have had really rocky and unsettled endings to them? There's, they get to a certain point where they say, wow, this is, they're an alternative to the bigger names, they're an alternative to WWE, and then it just sort of comes apart because it seems like there's, even if they can't eclipse WWE or compete head to head, is that sort of feeling of, well, the mindset is different with a lot of these people and in the management perhaps, where it leads to poor management decisions, it leads towards a rocky, unsettled sort of way of running things?
Well, I think it comes down to a lot of it that I see is that they get in that wrestling bubble, and they start to, much like the performers, they no longer they lose sight of the fact that they're trying to do their television show as basically a commercial for the product. That's all a professional wrestling show is. It's a commercial for the product to drive your live events. That drive the ratings for your commercial for your product, that drive your live events, that drive your pay-per-view revenues, which drive your merchandise sales, which drive your ratings for your commercial, which drive your live events, etc. And they start to get into marketing to just the vocal minority who will basically critique the show and its, how good it was or how bad it was, and they'll, instead of driving the bus to do everything they can to motivate an audience to come out to pay to see that live event, which, again, like we said, that drives the television ratings, which drive the pay-per-view revenues, which drive the merchandise, etc. They'll start to, again, get in that wrestling bubble and try to just appeal to that vocal minority. And that's where I think they start to lose sight. They think that now they're producing a television show like it's a regular television
Sure.
As opposed to it's a wrestling show that really, essentially, no matter how you call it, it's a commercial that is to motivate people to pay to see the product, which are the talent themselves.
And they shouldn't be
lose sight of that as well and treat the wrestling show as if they themselves are actors or they're just, and they don't treat the wrestling match as what it is really, truly, is a commercial for them to motivate the audience to pay to see them.
Yeah, well, so instead of driving the narrative, they're being reactionary and they're caught on the back foot trying to appease a certain, like you said, vocal minority and limiting their audience rather than, casting that large net and pushing that.
Yes, and I think that's where the shift has become. And and when a new wrestling promotion comes out on the scene, of course, the first thing they want to try to do is compete with WWE. When really what they should try to do is compete with themselves and be an alternative to WWE.
Right.
And then when they try to compete with WWE, then they panic, they get desperate, and they go, okay, well, we're going to appeal to that vocal audience because we know that that's our real core audience, that's our wrestling fans, and we're gonna appeal to them first and build off of that. And
right, which
it just doesn't work.
Yeah, it becomes a game of diminishing returns.
Yeah, it's much like producing a Hollywood comic book movie, like a Spider-Man.
Right.
You have a core audience
who
have read the comic book. They're loyal to the character. They know it inside and out, and they're gonna buy a ticket. Now you've got to appease them. You got to appeal to them, but you've got to produce a movie about Spider-Man that really appeals to the mass audience.
That's right. Perfect analogy.
That's where you're going to make your money.
Perfect analogy.
You brought up the wrong thing, Al. You got the comic book nerd now. He's getting excited.
No, we'll keep it on wrestling.
Yeah. Now, you actually have, because you sound so passionate still, and you've been in the business for, like 35 years now. You actually have training facilities all over the world. Talk to us about that, because this is a real interesting concept that you don't just have them in your backyard, but literally you have them all over the world.
Yeah, I started with Al Snow's Wrestling Academy in London, and the reason I went to London was because I had access to enough trainers who had genuine experience, meaning that they went out and they wrestled on all levels, TNA, WWE, independents around the world. They had genuine experience wrestling, and not just wrestling, but wrestling for a living, trying to pay their bills. So it gives them a different understanding of what it is they need to teach younger students to try to really take advantage of any opportunities that might come their way. And I had access to a large group of those guys. That's why I initially located in London. And then I started affiliate schools because my hope is that if I can create a network of these schools, then a student can start in London, England, and get to a certain level, because you're only as good as the people you work with. And you're only going to learn so much from the same group of people. But by creating a network, I can, have a student who's in London, England. He gets to a certain point. The trainer there knows that he's developed as far as he can. He contacts one of my affiliate schools in Chile, and they talk. And then the student goes to Chile. He learns different techniques. He gets exposure to a different audience. He learns to, understand and develop things that he wouldn't understand. So by having that network that I have the 3 in the UK. I have one in Cheshire, one in the Midlands, one in London. I have one in Denmark, one in Romania, one in Bulgaria, one in Greece, one in Portugal, potentially one in Italy, one in Chile, and
you're trying to take over the world. That's it.
I'm trying to.
That's it.
And then eventually I'll have some here in the United States, one in Colorado, possibly Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And then what I do is I supply each one of them a syllabus, a training syllabus. That way, philosophically, all of the schools are on the same page. You don't go to one and they teach you one way and then somebody teaches you another. Everybody philosophically teaches the same. Now, technique-wise, skill, different ideas, moves, mechanically, everybody is going to teach their style, which is great because now you get to learn all of these different things and what works. Something might work for you a little better than something else, but philosophically it'll all be the same. And then if you can go around and work, and all of these different schools also have their own live event promotions, you get the opportunity to now work in front of different audiences around the world. Now if WWE contacts you, you don't just have the training, you have genuine experience and polish that prepare you so that then when you have an opportunity for a platform like WWE, you can actually go up there and be able to fully take advantage of it to become a star.
So, it's funny that you mentioned that because we, in addition to having legends who listen to the show and regular fans, we have a lot of indie wrestlers who listen to the show, and there's been something that is really lost in translation that hopefully you can shed some light on. Some of the indie wrestlers have literally grabbed their gear bag and shown up at the arena when WWE or ROH or Lucha Underground is in town and say, hey, I'm ready to work. And a couple of these guys have gotten their heads chewed off because of that, because no one invited them. They just showed up. What is your advice for indie folks who are trying to get some discovery, get some attention? They're trying to get on the card or what have you. What advice can you give them? How should they go about that?
Well, of course you're going to want to try to make your contacts through the proper channels, make phone calls, try to connect with people. But you also, you don't show up with your bag. You show up with your bag, your wrestling gear in the car, and then you walk up and you try to respectfully, introduce yourself, and you try to, I'm a firm believer, you don't pour yourself out. You don't just show up and hang outside the door. But you show up and you try to introduce yourself. And if it doesn't work the first time, you try it a second time. If it doesn't work a second time, try it a third. I mean, there's no hard and fast or carved in stone rule when it comes to professional wrestling. You're going to have to make them notice you somehow. And you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And, sometimes it might work for you to just go and, you know what, I'm going to show up and I'm going to be respectful and I'm going to be confident and I'm going to look people in the eye and I'm going to shake their hand. And, the first time you show up in the building, you may not get no further than, the gate. The next time you show up, you might not get no further than the gate. The third time you show up, you might get to talk to somebody at the back door.
So now, be respectful and persistent is what you're saying.
Correct. An old, story, Jack the Stretcher Hart, which was Barry Horowitz, the way he got broke into business and he started training was that he literally sat on his car in the parking lot and parked it right next to Boris Malenko's car. And every night at the arena, Boris would come out and Barry Horowitz would be there, and Barry would ask him to train him. And he'd constantly tell him no. And then finally he agreed to train Barry, and Barry got trained and had a career, went around the world.
How crazy is that?
And again, you've got to do what you feel in your gut is right for you. I mean, professional wrestling is very much a business that's just based on instinct. And back to your point about scripting too much, the reason that scripting too much doesn't work is that you're trying to intellectualize something that is worked and done on instinct. And it just intellectualizing something like that doesn't fit.
Good call.
And the same goes for making your inroads and making your way in. you're trying to intellectualize something that really you just have to do with your heart and with your gut. And if you have the passion for it and you have the balls, eventually you're going to make your opportunity.
You know, sort of spinning off that a little bit, we talked to a lot of people who have encountered folks who are trying to become wrestlers and do it as a profession, who are not taking their training seriously. And you touched upon this a little bit earlier already. But as far as, like, you know, overuse of energy drinks and not treating their body the right way, and as a result, getting injured. I mean, is it sort of like that persistence and that business-like attitude has to pervade to the actual training too as well?
Every step of the way. You know, I have young wrestlers come up all the time, and they say, well, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do to be a, you know, be better, to be a star? And I tell them the same two things. One, invest time, money, and effort in you. Because if you are asking a promoter to invest their time, money, and effort in you, you're asking an audience to invest their time, money, and effort in you. The least you can do is do the same for yourself to make it worth that promoter or that audience's while to invest their time, money, and effort in you. And so few of the new independent wrestlers, the guys who are breaking in, they don't do that. They don't invest time, money, or effort in themselves, but expect the promoter and the audience to do that.
To do the same.
Which is just completely crazy. And in fact, it's funny that you bring that up, Al, because the number one thing that you're remembered for as a performer is a particular gimmick where you carried around a mannequin head.
Yeah, and
they didn't have any legs.
Yeah, right.
Well, it was one of the more, you know, as a kid watching, going, what is going on here? And it was just so offbeat and strange. And I love a good gimmick. I'm always coming up with, you know, imaginary gimmicks, and that simple gimmicks are the best. Duke and I talk a lot about Hacksaw Jim Duggan, the 2x4.
I know.
Does it get any simpler than that? The mannequin head.
Yeah.
It's amazing, right? And
Right.
I don't think I've ever, and what fascinates me about this actually is, and I wanted to ask you about this, I don't think I've ever spoken to somebody who had their own action figure before. What is it like to have your own action figure?
It's probably one of the most awesome things in the world. I can tell you. I get to play with myself all the time.
Oh,
there it is.
Well, I know there was some controversy that had happened when I was at Walmart, and I always thought it was great that you guys put it into the act, so to speak. That the controversy made it from fact to fiction, and you poked fun at it, which I think was really cool.
Well, it was, you know, two women who were, of all things, assistant professors of communication at a college in Georgia, wrote a letter to the Atlanta Constitution because they just, with no homework, no research, no investigation, simply saw my action figure at a Walmart, a local Walmart, with a picture of me holding the head with a maniacal look on my face, and then immediately said that it was, you know, it was instigating violence against women, and I quote, it was a training manual for future spouse abusers.
Can you believe this? Can you believe
That's
it?
a bit of a stretch.
I had pitched the idea to Jack that we should maybe include one of those with the action figures we want to sell that.
Wow.
Well, and then you guys worked it in, and I remember there was something that I think one of the plays was that you had your mom on the phone, and you were talking about how, well, Walmart sells guns, but I'm the jerk for having the mannequin head.
Yeah.
Guns and hunting knives and live ammo, but
Yeah, right.
No mannequin heads now.
And I'm actually still on the list. I'm number 5. I'm still number 5 of the 21 things that Walmart will not sell that they feel are unsafe to the public, but they will sell an AR-15.
So are you behind the Dixie Chicks or ahead of them as far as not being allowed to be sold in the
Dixie Chicks are further down on the list. Yeah. Barbie beat me out.
See, look at that. Now you've actually graduated, Al. You've gone from your action figures to now you have your own apparel line. Talk to us about the apparel line, because I'm telling you, it's been heating up on social media. A lot of folks have been checking it out. What's this all about here?
I started an apparel line called Collar and Elbow, and the real reason, honestly, that I started it is because I got to tell you guys. I mean, I love wrestling. I love wrestling in all its forms, and you know, whether it's catch as catch can, whether it's MMA, jiu-jitsu, judo, Greco-Roman, freestyle, professional wrestling. I don't care. I mean, I think it is probably, without a question or a doubt, the oldest sport in the history of mankind. It's without a doubt probably the purest form of competition to people, and it's the greatest backdrop to tell stories, drama, and emotion that you could ever find. And I thought I would create something that wrestling fans could wear, and they could wear anywhere, and it'd be cool because it's just collar and elbow. Collar and elbow is a lockup. It's a tie up between two guys in all forms of wrestling. So, I thought that represented wrestling more than anything else. And I think, and I'm assuming, don't quote me. Well, you can quote me because the people will get upset anyway. But I think it's the only wrestling brand that's a brand by a wrestler for and it's for the wrestling fan and all of us. And the two cool things I'm doing with it are, is one, I instituted a thing to help build the brand. Is I've got sponsored athletes. What sponsored athletes are basically they're independent wrestlers, young guys that don't have an established brand, don't have an established gimmick. As far as being on the poster, they're not that big a factor as far as how many people showed up at the building, so they're not going to get paid a tremendous amount of money. And unlike a lot of other established talent, they can't sell merchandise. So my hope is that by establishing this brand, giving them a discount code that they can use, and they now use that to market the brand and give that discount code out to people to motivate them to buy it.
Wow.
They now become salesmen, but they get $5 for every T-shirt they sell. And then that doesn't sound like a whole lot of money, but if they sell 100 T-shirts, they make $500.
That's a payoff, yeah.
In the truest sense of wrestling, we work together. They succeed. The brand succeeds. The brand succeeds. The more they succeed, the more, it all works synergistically together. And it allows them to be able to earn a little bit more money to where that and have another revenue stream that will enable them to be able to pursue their career and their dreams a little easier.
And what's this that you do with the Cauliflower Alley Club in relation to
that was the second thing too, and out of respect to all the wrestlers that come before us and love of wrestling, the Cauliflower Alley Club has been in existence for decades, and they have charitable efforts all the time with former professional wrestlers and boxers. I think just recently I heard that they used their funds to help a former professional wrestler who's handicapped get a handicapped accessible van.
Wow.
So he could get around town and basically live his life. Because these days you got to be able to drive around just to survive. And he couldn't afford one, so they were able to pull the money together and help him be able to buy a handicapped accessible van. So what I've done in association with the Cauliflower Alley Club is we allow the customer, they can round up their purchase and say we sell a T-shirt for $20.95. Well, we'll round it up to $21. Well, at 5 cents, it doesn't sound like a whole lot of money, but if you sell several thousand T-shirts at 5 cents a T-shirt, all of that money goes to Cauliflower Alley Club, and it helps all of the former professional wrestlers who paved the way for modern professional wrestlers and professional wrestling fans to get to enjoy the very thing that we all love.
That's pretty cool. And fans, we're going to put up the website and information on Duke Loves Rasslin on Facebook and on Twitter. I know we put it up earlier today, but we'll keep running that. What's the website again, Al?
It's collarandelbowbrand.com.
collarandelbowbrand.com. That's good stuff. Now, listen, if fans want to get in touch with you, or even if there are folks who want to break into the business, they want to get in touch with you to visit one of your wrestling schools, what's the best way that folks can reach you?
Well, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, I'm the real Al Snow. And yes, there were some fakes. When they would be, I would send them a message like, come on, guys, if you're going to fake being a celebrity, why don't you aim higher?
Exactly.
I mean, I don't mind. It's kind of a compliment, but at the same time, be Neil Armstrong or something. Somebody just cool.
Imitation is the highest form of flattery, Al.
That's right.
Right, yeah.
So the real Al Snow. Now listen, before we let you go, we hear that you have a special lady in your life.
Yes, I do. She's in the car with me right now.
Oh, she is?
Yeah, I got my wife right here with me. Her name's Jessica, and she's awesome. She puts up with all my craziness and puts up with Head. Head loves her.
Nice. That's important.
That's all that counts, really.
Yeah.
And she loves Head.
That's
We can end it right
That's
there.
it. That's it. Listen, Al Snow, you've been a treasure to the professional wrestling business, and
Some people would say to take me out and bury me.
no, please, no, please, and MMA. Like I said, you trained UFC Hall of Famer Dan Severn. You're just a guy that folks really enjoy listening to because you have so much insight and what have you. Thank you for coming on Duke Loves Rasslin podcast, and we'll definitely have you back on sometime soon.
Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate you guys having me on today.
What a classy guy, huh?
Oh, man. Legend.
Yes.
You know, he says he called himself former WWE superstar. I think once you are one,
You're a superstar.
You're a superstar.
He's a superstar in all of wrestling. I mean, give me a break. And, you know, we mentioned it, but we didn't go too deep in it. He trained Dan the Beast Severn to fight in UFC.
Right, and so it's funny because people are wrestling and
I know. Yeah.
Do you want to take a punch from this guy?
Please.
I certainly do
Think
not.
about how tough Al Snow is that he trained a guy who's now in the Hall of Fame.
That's
who
right.
couldn't throw a punch before he got trained by
Right.
Al.
And you know what? You know he threw a good-looking punch because wrestlers got to throw a good-looking punch.
Absolutely.
So not only effective, it's got to be good-looking.
Well, when Al Snow was being trained, if you didn't throw a good punch, your opponent would just punch you for real and say, that's how you do a
that's
punch.
how you do it.
Remember Steve Do It to a Cox explained that to us?
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Boy. Yeah, Steve has a lot of good stories.
Shout out to Steve Do It to a Cox. That's our homeboy right there.
Oh, yeah,
man.
absolutely.
I love Steve.
Absolutely.
Love Steve. Well, folks, up next we have, hopefully, we have some of your listener-submitted questions, a.k.a. Ask
Yeah,
Duke.
we'll see about that.
Yeah, the Boston Bad Boy, he's just been out of control, as you know, lately, folks. But before we get to any of that, got to remind you, head over to Barnyard Cheese. That's right, Barnyard Cheese over in New York City. And I'm telling you right now, Boston Bad Boy, word on the street is that you actually spoke to somebody over at Barnyard Cheese.
That's right. You know, I've finally
nonsense?
gone over your head because it was high time.
Oh, boy.
And I called down there and I spoke to Alex at Barnyard Cheese.
Alex?
One of the hardest working men in show business, let me tell you. And he wanted me to let you know something very important.
What's that?
He can't stand you. He can't stand you. And one of the reasons is that you're always mentioning Dave, Double D, okay? Because he doesn't appreciate because he works as hard as Double D, Dave Davis.
Give me a break.
And he said he going to, as a retaliation, he is going to personally make me one of their newest creations, the bodybuilder sandwich. When I go there.
Well, you're going to need
Listen
a
to
lot
this.
more than just that, pal.
The bodybuilder, fresh tomato, buttery avocado, sprouts, cucumber, red onion, and a nice schmutz of cream cheese on 7-grain bread. And if that wasn't delicious enough, him and I are working on a new venture together. And it's called the Boston Bad Boy Knuckle Sandwich.
Give me a break.
Nope, I'm telling you.
Give me a
It's
break.
happening.
No.
And all I had to do was go over your head, which I should have done a long time
No.
ago, and got to work on a real sandwich with the guys down at
Let
Barnyard
me
Cheese.
tell you something, Alex. You're in big trouble, pal. Okay, because once you start conspiring with the Boston Bad Boy, you're going down the wrong path, my friend.
Your life has gotten
Okay?
so much better once you start conspiring
Give
with
me a
me.
break.
Everybody who deals with me, their life gets better.
Double D, Dave Davis, this Alex character. I want you to take care of that for us, please. Okay, but folks, head over to barnyardcheese.com for more info. Enjoy.
This is the pastor of wrestling, Kevin West, and I'm listening to Duke Love Rasslin.
All right. Here we are, segment 3. My
Imagine
favorite
that.
part of the show.
Oh, my goodness.
You know, I was thinking as we did the show tonight, how much fun we had last week.
Yeah, we got a pretty good positive response about last week's show, huh?
Yeah, I mean, and we had a lot of great new people on the show who agreed with me,
Well,
which is always great.
I don't know, man. You had that. What was the guy's name?
Shamburger.
Shamburger.
The great Shamburger. And you know what?
Shamburger.
I went back and I was listening to the show again, and I said, you know, Shamburger is just, he's like the everyday philosopher.
Oh.
That guy makes so much sense. And it occurred to me, because he has so much energy, that Shamburger is so smart that he even makes sense when you listen to him backwards. See that?
Give me a break.
Do you see that? You understood what he was saying there, and when he read the riot act to you last week, it made just as much sense.
Why do you waste people's time with stuff like? First of all, that Shamburger will never be on this show again, and he sounds just as ridiculous backwards as he did frontward. Well, why do you waste people's time with that?
It's not wasting time. These are our listeners. These are my fans.
Give me a break.
And I bring them on to straighten you out.
What is a Shamburger?
You know what happens? You have these imaginary feuds with professional wrestlers.
Here we go.
I have actual feuds with you, and I bring actual people in to straighten you out. Do you see what the difference is? I get things done. I get things done around here, and you don't. That's the difference.
When Al Snow trains me,
please.
just understand that after I'm done with Roman Reigns, I'm going to deal with you.
I would pay. Okay? I would pay for your training to watch you get your ass kicked by the legendary Al Snow and his cadre of professional wrestling trainers. He said he's going to
train me.
Yeah.
So I'm ready for you, Roman.
Listen,
I'm ready for you, pal.
Al's a legend. Yeah. He's not a miracle worker. Okay. So I don't know about him training you.
Don't insult me. You insult yourself anytime you talk negative about me. Just so you know. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I am stuck here with you. I don't know why.
You insult yourself when you talk negatively about the Duke.
Yeah. I'm gonna here. You know what's gonna here? I'm gonna insult you now because I'm not doing your stupid questions this week. How about that?
Come on, man. We haven't done questions in a while. Come on.
And it's gonna stay that way until you learn some respect. Better listen to me.
Give me a break.
Well, you know what? This is good, though, because I was actually listening to your nonsense earlier in the show. I usually tune you out, but you mentioned during Run the Ropes the Jinder Mahal retained the WWE Championship.
That's right.
When Great Khali attacked Randy Orton during the Battleground.
Yes,
now,
which was awesome.
This match took place in a Punjabi prison match?
Yes.
I've seen pictures of this. I didn't watch the match because wrestling's so stupid nowadays.
Give me a break.
And this just puts the icing on the cake. What the hell is a Punjabi prison match?
Well, it's a match where you have a bamboo structure. And the ring is inside the structure, and they wrestle. It's like a steel cage match, but
made of bamboo.
Yes.
For a nice 1950s tiki theme. It's stupid.
Come on.
How much does it get more carny than that?
It was awesome.
What's next? The 6-foot man eating chicken?
Sure.
Now, listen, if Vince McMahon could make money off of it, I'm sure he would do it. But here's what I want to know. As you know, I have a lot of loyal listeners. And I know that I didn't watch the match. They just filled me in on how ridiculous this was. This is why I'm bringing this up. Because a loser like you actually watched it as it was happening live. And from what I could tell from the photographs, you couldn't see a friggin' thing. You've got Jinder and Randy wrestling inside the structure, which is enclosed by the bamboo structure, which encloses the ring. It's like you're looking through 7 screens to see these guys match. Explain that to me. What am I looking at here? And who's sitting front row is going to even see what's going on there?
Well, you have...
Never mind on television.
Well, you have what's called the Titantron and some other screens.
So I'm going to pay to put my ass in a seat to watch it on a screen when I'm there?
I'm just telling you that they could clearly see in the ring if you just look up at
the
No,
I want to look at the ring and see in. That's what I want to do. Because how much do those seats cost? How much do those seats in the front row around a ring at an event like that? What does that cost?
They average about $500 a pop.
$500?
I mean...
$500 for me to go look at a Jumbotron? Is that what you're telling me? Plus pay for my hot dog and my stupid T-shirt that Vince McMahon gets a cut of? That's what I'm supposed to believe? To go sit and look at a bamboo structure? Second, the fire marshal checked that thing out. It looked highly flammable to me.
Give me a break.
You remember the Coconut Grove story?
All right, stop that.
It's not safe.
Listen, wrestling is about gimmicks, okay? And there are a lot of interesting matches and gimmicks and things that
How about a real
gimmick?
You're gonna say that's a gimmick?
It is a gimmick.
It's a waste of time.
Match.
Just put him in a steel cage.
It worked.
Put him in a steel cage.
Okay, people wanted to see it. They got to see it. It was fun. So what?
It was fun?
There was some controversy about people sitting in the front row who had some difficulty
They get
seeing
splinters?
inside of the ring.
I mean, what was going on here? Get hit in the eye with a splinter?
Well, actually, I think Randy Orton did get a couple of splinters on his back, but that's not the point here. The point is you have to continuously innovate and create something new and exciting. Don't you understand that? Okay, you can't have the same thing over and over again. And that's why Vince McMahon is a visionary, because he always comes up with something interesting.
You know why it's not interesting? It's borderline offensive of what it is. What is a bamboo cage known for in common society?
Oh,
you've seen it in war
stop it
movies.
right now.
Okay,
Stop it right
you've seen
now.
it in war movies.
Come on,
and and you know what? And in war movies,
always think
it's
the
not.
worst.
No, listen. In war movies, it's a horribly tragic thing, and it really happened in real life that people were put in these stupid things. So you're going to take this something that has a very negative connotation
and turn
you're
it into something positive. Yes, that's
positive?
exactly what Vince McMahon does.
No, it's playing off stereotypes, which is exactly what Vince McMahon does. So not only did he have the bamboo cage, which is scary to Americans because people were during the Vietnam War, people were actually put in these things by the Viet Cong. So we're going to play off that horrible stereotype. Now we're going to put Jinder Mahal inside of it, another guy who he's just working off a stereotype, hoping people mix him up with an evil, quote-unquote, scary, faceless Muslim. It's ridiculous. And it's another example of Vince and company continuing to screw the fans and ripping them off. A family saves up their money. $500, you said, right? A family saves up their money, they park, they get the T-shirts, they get the stupid popcorn that was brewed 1,700 years ago. Probably the same popcorn Vince Sr. made. They keep it in a bag somewhere, and they just keep selling it over and over again. And they get all the way through, and they're going to go look at a Punjabi prison?
Do you ever
How about
listen
some
to
wrestlers
yourself?
with a gimmick? How about some wrestlers that actually go out there and people are interested in?
Do you ever listen to yourself? You sit here and you run down Vince McMahon, run down the WWE when they try to do something right. Okay.
Listen, when they try to do something right, you let me know because it hasn't happened in recent memory. It hasn't happened.
I'm wrapping you up. Thank you to Al Snow for joining us this week.
Had a nice talk with Al Snow, and you got me all screwed up with Punjabi.
You can head over to Facebook, head over to Twitter. Let us know what you think of the show, folks, because the Boston Bad Boy is just -- rude. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. He's rude.
Vince McMahon screws it over.
There's nothing wrong with the Punjabi prison match.
He's
Leave Vince
creatively
McMahon
bankrupt.
alone.
He's insane.
He's the man.
It's ridiculous.
I don't understand what